Montana Territory, 1873. Holliston, a settlement clinging to the edge of wilderness, stood as a precarious outpost between civilization and the untamed frontier. The wind carried dust through unpaved streets where men outnumbered women 5-1, and beauty was measured by practicality rather than delicate features or soft words. Hannah Nelson stood at her father's general store counter, tallying the day's receipts with the same methodical precision that characterized her entire life. At 22 years old, she had resigned herself to spinsterhood, convinced that her plain appearance and bookish nature made her invisible to the rough men who frequented Holliston. Her chestnut brown hair was always neatly pinned back, her simple blue cotton dress unadorned by the frills and lace other young women favored. The mirror told her what the whispers confirmed. She was unremarkable in a land where only the extraordinary survived. "A woman out here needs to catch a man's eye," her father had once said with well-meaning concern, "or she'll end up alone with nothing but memories to warm her at night." Hannah had nodded politely but held firm to her silent conviction. The frontier was no place for romance. Love was a luxury afforded to beautiful women in safer places, not for plain, practical girls in dusty Montana outposts. She had built walls around her heart as sturdy as the stockade that protected their settlement, focusing instead on survival, on helping her widowed father manage the store, on building a life of quiet usefulness rather than passionate attachment. "That Nelson girl," she had overheard Cowboys saying at the saloon when she delivered supplies. "Plain as prairie dirt and twice as dry." The words had stung, but she'd absorbed them as truth, another brick in the wall protecting her from foolish hopes. The bell above the door jingled, pulling Hannah from her ledger. She glanced up, expecting to see one of the usual customers, a grizzled prospector or weather-beaten rancher looking for supplies. Instead, she found herself facing a stranger whose appearance made her breath catch unexpectedly. He was young, no more than 25, with clear blue eyes that surveyed the store with intelligent interest. Unlike the unwashed cowboys who typically wandered in, this man carried himself with quiet dignity. His stubble was neatly trimmed, his clothes worn but clean, and when he removed his hat, she noticed his sandy blonde hair had been recently cut. Most striking was the absence of the hard edge that frontier life carved into men's expressions. Instead, kindness resided in the corners of his eyes. "Good afternoon, miss," he said, approaching the counter. "I'm looking for provisions for the journey north, and perhaps some information, if you're willing to share it." "We have provisions," Hannah replied, her tone businesslike to mask her unexpected fluster. "What sort of information are you seeking?" "My name is Adam O'Brien," he said with a slight bow that seemed almost courtly in this rough setting. "I've purchased land about 20 miles north. They tell me you and your father know this territory better than most." Hannah nodded, relieved to be on familiar ground. "Pa's been here 15 years, since before Montana was even a territory. I've been here since I was 7. "Then I'm fortunate to have found you," Adam said with a smile that transformed his already handsome face. "I'm hoping to establish a horse ranch. Good stock, properly bred, not the half-wild Mustangs most folks around here rely on." Hannah's interest was genuinely piqued. "That's ambitious. The winters here can kill weak stock. I'm counting on finding people with local knowledge to help me avoid the worst mistakes," he replied. "Would you be willing to tell me what supplies I'll need to survive my first Montana winter?" As she moved through the store, selecting items and explaining their necessity, Hannah found herself speaking more than she had to any stranger in years. Adam listened attentively, asking thoughtful questions that revealed both intelligence and humility, a rare combination on the frontier where men typically presumed to know everything or understood nothing. When her father returned from the bank and joined the conversation, Adam extended his hand in greeting. "Your daughter has been extraordinarily helpful, sir. You've raised a remarkably knowledgeable young woman." The word extraordinary lingered in Hannah's mind long after Adam had departed with his supplies, promising to return. No one had ever used such a word to describe her before. She knew better than to read meaning into polite conversation, yet she found herself glancing in the small mirror behind the counter, wondering briefly if she'd somehow changed without noticing. 2 weeks later, disaster struck Holliston. A sudden storm unleashed a flash flood that tore through the settlement, washing away 3 buildings and damaging many others. The Nelson store survived, but their storeroom was flooded, merchandise ruined, and the future suddenly precarious. As Hannah and her father salvaged what they could from the mud, the bell above the door jingled. Adam O'Brien stood there, hat in hand, his eyes taking in the destruction. "I heard about the flood in town," he said. "I came to see if you were all right." Hannah looked up from the sodden ledger she was trying to save, acutely aware of her mud-splattered dress and disheveled hair. "We're standing, which is more than can be said for the Wilsons' place." "I need help," Adam said suddenly, surprising them both. "My supplies are insufficient for the work I'm doing, and I'm still learning this territory. I can offer fair wages to anyone willing to come manage my household while I build the ranch. When I heard about the flood, I thought perhaps—" Hannah's father straightened, wincing at the pain in his back. "You're offering employment? Room, board, and wages," Adam confirmed. "I need someone who understands provisioning, accounts, and Montana's peculiarities. Your daughter seems remarkably capable." Her father looked at Hannah with barely concealed hope. At 63, another setback like this flood might break him. Her wages could help rebuild while relieving him of one mouth to feed. "It wouldn't be proper," Hannah said reflexively, though her heart raced at the unexpected opportunity. "I have a separate cabin for your accommodation," Adam assured her. "And I've hired 2 ranch hands with their wives. You'd have female companionship and proper chaperonage. I assure you, Miss Nelson, my intentions are purely practical." 3 days later, Hannah found herself bouncing northward in Adam's wagon, watching Holliston disappear behind her. The arrangement was temporary, 6 months to help establish the ranch while her father rebuilt the store. 6 months away from the whispers and knowing looks of people who had categorized her as plain, ordinary, invisible. The O'Brien Ranch was little more than ambitious foundations when she arrived. A main house was partially constructed, a barn stood unfinished, and several small cabins dotted the property. Adam showed her to the smallest cabin, which contained a narrow bed, a table with a basin, and a small stove. "It's not much," he apologized, "but it's weather-tight. The main house will have proper accommodations when it's finished." Hannah looked around at the clean, simple space, her own home for the first time in her life. "It's perfect," she said honestly. Life at the nascent ranch quickly fell into rhythm. Hannah rose at dawn to prepare breakfast for the workers, then spent her days organizing supplies, planning meals, and keeping accounts of their expenditures. Adam worked alongside his men, his hands becoming calloused, his face tanned by the sun. In the evenings, they would sit on the porch of the unfinished main house, discussing the day's progress and planning for tomorrow. Hannah found herself flourishing in this new environment. Away from Holliston's judgment, she moved more freely, spoke more confidently. The ranch hands' wives, practical frontier women themselves, treated her with easy camaraderie rather than the pitying friendship she'd known in town. One evening, as autumn painted the Montana sky in shades of orange and purple, Adam joined her on the porch with 2 steaming cups of coffee. "You've transformed this place," he said, handing her a cup. "I was floundering before you came." Hannah smiled, allowing herself to accept the compliment. "I'm simply applying what I learned at my father's store." "It's more than that," Adam insisted. "You have an extraordinary gift for seeing what others miss. Last week, when you suggested we adjust the barn's position to better shelter it from winter winds, that wasn't store knowledge. That was insight." Hannah felt a strange warmth that had nothing to do with the coffee. "The frontier doesn't forgive carelessness. My mother died because someone didn't think carefully enough about winter preparations. I suppose I've been compensating ever since." Adam's expression softened. "I'm sorry about your mother." "It was 15 years ago," Hannah said, though the pain had never fully vanished. "She caught pneumonia during a blizzard when our roof leaked. By the time the doctor could reach us," she trailed off, the familiar guilt resurfacing. "I've spent my life trying to anticipate problems before they become disasters. Planning for every contingency," Adam nodded. "No wonder you keep such meticulous accounts." "People call it fussing," Hannah admitted. "In Holliston, they think I'm—" She stopped herself, suddenly embarrassed. "What do they think?" Adam pressed gently. "Plain. Ordinary. Too practical to be interesting," Hannah said, the words rushing out before she could reconsider. "Women should be decorative or at least charming. I'm neither." Adam was quiet for a moment, looking out across the land where his horses now grazed. "When I first came to Holliston," he finally said. I was struck by how different you were from other women I'd met out west. They were either hardened by frontier life or playing at being delicate flowers transplanted from the east. You were simply yourself, honest, competent, with no artifice. There's nothing ordinary about that, Hannah Nelson. Before she could respond, a rider appeared on the horizon, galloping hard toward the ranch. Adam stood, instantly alert. Something's wrong. The rider proved to be a messenger from town. Outlaws had raided Holliston the previous night. Several buildings had been burned, including what remained of the Nelson store. Her father had been injured trying to save his merchandise. How badly is he hurt? Hannah demanded, her heart racing. Broken leg and some burns, the messenger reported. Doctor says he'll recover, but he's asking for you. Adam immediately ordered a wagon prepared. I'll take you to him. The journey to Holliston was tense and silent. Hannah's mind raced with fears for her father and their future. With the store gone, what would become of them? The 6-month arrangement with Adam suddenly seemed precarious. Her father would need care, and they would need to rebuild from nothing. When they reached town, Hannah found her father in the doctor's small infirmary, his legs splinted and bandaged, his face drawn with pain but alive. She embraced him carefully, tears of relief streaming down her face. Thank God you're alive, she whispered. The store's gone, he told her, anguish in his voice. Everything we had. Adam stood quietly in the doorway, watching their reunion. After giving them privacy for their conversation, he approached the bed. Mr. Nelson, he said formally, I have a proposition. Your daughter has proved invaluable to my operation. I would like to extend her employment indefinitely and offer you accommodation at my ranch while you recover. Hannah's father looked between them, his shrewd eyes narrowing slightly. That's generous, O'Brien, but we can't accept charity. It's not charity, Adam insisted. Hannah's work has already saved me from costly mistakes. And once you're healed, I could use a man with your experience. The ranch needs a foreman who understands business as well as territory. Later, as Hannah gathered what few possessions had survived the raid, Adam joined her in the charred remains of the store. You don't have to do this, she said quietly, taking in a broken-down old man and his spinster daughter. Adam's jaw tightened. Is that how you see yourself? It's how everyone sees me, Hannah replied, gesturing toward the street where curious onlookers watched them. The plain Nelson girl who couldn't catch a husband and now can't even maintain a store. That's not what I see, Adam said with such intensity that Hannah froze, a singed ledger in her hands. I see a woman of extraordinary strength who has faced loss and hardship without becoming bitter, who notices what needs doing and simply does it without complaint or need for praise. Hannah felt something shift inside her, some wall beginning to crumble. What are you saying, Adam? But before he could answer, the doctor arrived with news that her father was running a fever, possible infection from his burns. The moment passed, replaced by urgent concern. The following weeks blurred together as Hannah divided her time between nursing her father and maintaining her duties at the ranch. Adam picked up the slack without complaint, often bringing her meals when she forgot to eat, sitting with her father so she could rest. Through it all, something unspoken grew between them, a partnership that transcended employer and employee. As winter settled over Montana, her father slowly improved, though he would walk with a limp for the rest of his life. The ranch progressed as well. The main house was completed just before the first heavy snow, with proper rooms for both Nelsons. Hannah continued managing the household and accounts, while her father began advising on ranch operations from his sickbed, his merchant's mind quickly grasping the economics of horse breeding. One December evening, a blizzard howled outside while inside. The completed main house stood warm and secure. Hannah sat by the fire, mending one of Adam's shirts, while her father and Adam discussed spring breeding plans. The domesticity of the scene struck her suddenly. How comfortable it felt, how right, despite the circumstances that had brought them here. You're smiling, Adam observed, glancing up from the papers spread before him. Just thinking, Hannah replied, unwilling to voice her thoughts. Later, when her father had retired for the night, Adam joined her by the fire with a small package wrapped in brown paper. Early Christmas gift, he explained, handing it to her. I saw it when I was in Helena last month. Hannah unwrapped the package to find a leather-bound journal, its cover tooled with intricate wildflowers. For your accounts and observations, Adam said, suddenly seeming nervous. You're always noticing things others miss. I thought you might want to preserve those thoughts. Hannah ran her fingers over the beautiful craftsmanship. It's too fine for everyday use. Nothing's too fine for you, Adam replied simply. The words hung between them, weighted with meaning. Hannah looked up to find Adam watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Why did you really offer us a place here? She asked, the question that had lingered since Holliston finally finding voice. Adam moved to sit beside her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. When I first came west, I believed the frontier demanded isolation, that attachment was weakness in a land this unforgiving. I planned to build this ranch alone, succeed or fail by my own hand. He took a breath, his eyes never leaving hers. Then I met a shopkeeper's daughter who showed me that survival here isn't about isolation at all. It's about community, about noticing what others need before they even know to ask. You taught me that, Hannah. I didn't teach you anything, she protested softly. You taught me to see differently, Adam insisted. Before you came, I saw this land as something to conquer. You showed me it's something to respect, to work with rather than against. He reached for her hand, his fingers warm against hers. The truth is, Hannah Nelson, I started falling in love with you that first day in your father's store, when you patiently explained why one type of axe was superior to another for Montana winters. Hannah felt the world tilt beneath her. You can't mean that. Why not? Because if you say plain or ordinary, I might lose my temper, Adam interrupted with gentle firmness. Those cowboys in Holliston were blind fools who couldn't recognize gold when it was right in front of them. Hannah struggled to make sense of his words. There are prettier women, more accomplished. I don't want them, Adam said simply. I want the woman who saved my horses from colic by noticing their water trough had algae, who reorganized my entire supply system in 3 days, who stays up late checking on her father even when she's exhausted. He released her hand to reach into his pocket, producing a small silver ring with a single modest stone. I want you, Hannah Nelson, with your practical mind and your extraordinary heart. I want to build this ranch together, as partners in every sense. Hannah stared at the ring, her entire worldview shifting like earth in a quake. People will say you could have done better. Let them talk, Adam replied. I know the truth. When a man finds the extraordinary, only a fool would settle for less. The blizzard raged outside, but inside, warmth bloomed as Hannah finally allowed herself to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, someone could see beyond the plain exterior to the person she truly was. Yes, she whispered, tears gathering in her eyes. I'll marry you. Spring 1874 arrived with renewal across the Montana landscape. The O'Brien Ranch, now properly established, saw its first foals born, promising the quality bloodlines Adam had envisioned. Hannah's father had recovered enough to assume the role of foreman, his merchant's mind proving invaluable for the business aspects of horse breeding. And on a perfect May morning, Hannah Nelson became Hannah O'Brien in a ceremony attended by the entire settlement of Holliston and the neighboring ranchers. She wore a dress of cream-colored silk that Adam had ordered from Helena, her chestnut hair adorned with wildflowers rather than an elaborate veil. As they exchanged vows beneath the big sky of Montana territory, Hannah finally understood the truth that had eluded her for so long. Beauty wasn't found in perfect features or fashionable adornments, but in being truly seen by someone who recognized your worth. The same cowboys who had once dismissed her as plain and ordinary now watched in puzzlement as the handsome young rancher kissed his bride with unmistakable adoration. They couldn't see what Adam did, the extraordinary love in Hannah's heart that had built a home where once there was only wilderness, that had created family where there had been isolation, that had transformed survival into living. 5 years later, Hannah stood on the porch of their expanded home, watching Adam teach their 3-year-old son to sit on a gentle mare while their infant daughter slept in her cradle nearby. The ranch had prospered beyond their expectations, becoming known throughout the territory for its quality horses and fair dealing. Mama, look, her son called proudly as he balanced on the horse's back, Adam's steady hands ensuring his safety. Hannah smiled, her heart full. The frontier remained harsh and unforgiving in many ways, but she had discovered its secret. It wasn't a place for the isolated or the emotionally barren. It was a place where love, practical, enduring, extraordinary love, made the difference between mere survival and truly living. As Adam looked up and met her gaze across the yard, his smile as warm as it had been that first day in her father's store, Hannah knew with absolute certainty that she had never been ordinary. She had simply been waiting for the one man who could see the extraordinary that had been there all along.